a written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
Oh, it's time. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning. Glad to see so many people here today. I'm Dale Lair, the 2022 RCSC Board of Directors President. This meeting is audio and visually recorded by RCSC management and staff. Please take a moment to take your cell phones out and put them on vibrate mode so not to interrupt other people. There should be no recording of this meeting by any individual. I'd like to start out today with just a little bit of, I think we kind of got off on the wrong foot last month, and we kind of lost our way in the purpose of this meeting. So I would like to highlight, for those of you, I get the daily Independent, and every issue has this civility checklist. How many of you have seen this? Good, okay. I think this is really good, and maybe in the future I'll have it posted on the back if that's doable. But I think it's really good to think about what's in here, and I'm not going to go read it verbatim, but the first item on the list is to take the high road and respond to the topic, not the person. Be respectful. Find ways to be respectful and disagree without questioning someone's character or motives. Be truthful. Base your arguments on fact. Don't misrepresent. Always identify your opinions as opinions, not stating opinions as facts. Listen and learn. It's both polite and respectful to listen to those we disagree with, as well as those we support. Look for common ground. When disagreeing with others, look for even small areas of agreement, which can be the gateway to working together for the greater good. Respect privacy and set a good example. So I think those are very good checklists we all should take heed to. I would like to now introduce our Board of Directors and Management Personnel. Director Collins, not here. Director Fimmel.
Good morning.
Director McAdam.
Good morning.
Treasurer Akins.
Good morning.
Vice President Agee is not here. Secretary Lenevsky.
Hello.
Director Nowakowski.
Good morning.
Director Wilson.
Good morning.
Our General Manager, Bill Cook.
Morning, everybody.
Kevin is not here, but we have Angie in his place. Mike Woodfruit is not here, but we have Ray Davis from Buildings and Infrastructure. Chris Herring, Director of Operations.
Morning, everybody.
Brian Duthu, Director of Golf and Grounds.
Good morning.
Jolynn Higgins, Communications and RCSC Marketing Coordinator. Marcia Johnson, our corporate executive. I'm not hearing anything, so I have to kind of look. I'm not sure if Teresa is here, but if she is, no.
She is up there.
She is somewhere. Hi, Teresa. Oh, yeah, she's waving from the back. Very good. Also want to recognize Alan Kleinhans and Carla Young, our audiovisual engineers. Oh, and I forgot, Mike Deermeyer from bowling. Oh, sorry, almost forgot.
Polly, too. Polly.
And where's
Polly
Polly?
Good morning.
Oops. Sorry about that. And I'd like to take just a minute right now to introduce our RCSC candidates for Board of Directors. If you would please stand and remain standing after I call your name. Jerry Walczak. Is Jerry here? Oh, there he is. Stay standing, Jerry. Darla Akins. Steve Collins is not here. Jim Ruff. There you go. John Sahlberg. Is John here? Nope. John Fast. I know, I saw you earlier. Very good. And Jean Totten. Very good. Let's give him a round of applause. Tough job. Thank you very much. Okay. Our first item of business is really to give you an update on RCSC projects and issues from our management staff. So I'm going to turn the meeting over to our General Manager, Bill Cook. Hello.
Thank you, President Lair. So I'm going to try and go through this a little quicker than I did last time, but I have gotten some good feedback on it, so hopefully you continue to enjoy the State of the Union from the General Manager. So I'll start with finance, and Alan, if we can get the slide, there we go. Go to slide 2. Thank you. And these are posted. We did post them on Friday, so these will be on the website as well. And all the detail is in the management report. That also gets posted to our website. So again, we had another great month. Year-to-date budget income was favorable to budget by $1.4 million. Again, golf is driving a lot of that favorability. Expenses were favorable by $200,000. And our net operating excess is about $1.5 million favorable to budget. IT processed 91 service requests in September, so we've had 1,135 requests supported year to date. Human Resources had 32 job recs that they filled, so 212 year to date. They went down, actually, in terms of turning those over, down to 5.3. Just as a note, when I started as Director of Finance, that number was in the 20s. I believe we were in mid-20s, and now they've cut that down to 5.3, so that's really great progress that their Human Resources Department has made. Slide 3. So building infrastructure, so 383 work orders completed in October with 3,697 completed year to date. Our Lakes East-West Maintenance Facility, we have our certificate of occupancy. Woo! So we are now moving in. Brian's team is moving in. We are going to have a grand opening celebration on December 12th at 12:30. So I welcome you all to come see that new facility. It's wonderful. The Mountain View Center, phases 1 and 2. So we've actually now have a construction manager at risk hired. So we have done that on Friday. We gave the offer to Alston Construction. So we went through a process of sending out a request for proposal. We had 3 construction companies come back. We did an interview process 2 weeks ago, and now we've turned it around and we actually have a construction company on board. So now we have to just negotiate the contract and then we can move forward. Sun Bowl. So Sun Bowl is, we're waiting for the civil engineering and security documentation, so that is in progress at this point. So any of our softball folks out there, so we are looking at trying to, pull the schedule up, maybe build the storage facility sooner than later. So we're working on that. Don't hold me to that, but if we can put the infrastructure in place and the drawings come in and allow us to do that, we will try and do that. So Viewpoint Lake, we actually have a pumping system. So, we made a conscious decision not to just dump the water into the sewer system. So we're actually trying to utilize that water. So we're pumping it onto Lakes West and Lakes East. And so we've fortunately have closed down Lakes West because of overseed, and now we've extended that because we're pumping about 1 million gallons a day out of the lake onto to Lakes West. So we're really just trying to pour water out and onto Lakes West, and that seems to be working well. We do have some rain coming up Wednesday, so hopefully it doesn't set us back too far. Go to page 5, please. So golf, Mr. Duthu. So we have year-to-date income of $5.9 million, which is $1.1 million favorable to budget. So, kudos to the golf team and their ability to support that without really increasing any staffing. So we're roughly heading down about 50,000 more rounds than we had budgeted, and we're able to support that. Operating expenses of 4.5, which is 171,000 favorable, and our excess is 1.2 million favorable to budget. So total rounds for September was 19,187, and year-to-date rounds, 267,996. And then just as a note, there's complimentary golf clinics that are going to begin on November 5th. Brian, what course?
Starting at Riverview, since Lakes West is still.
Starting at Riverview. So note that if you're looking for those clinics. Page 6. Bowling. Bowling is having a banner year as well. So their $652,000 in year-to-date income is $77,000 favorable. We had really an increase in the open bowling, which we just have a resurgence in the love of bowling. So it's been great to see. You can see the parking lots are filled. I drove by Bell this morning and it was packed. So that's a good thing. Operating expenses of $529,000, $8,000 favorable to budget, so good job in budgeting there. Our excess is of $90,000 and $75,000 favorable to budget, so managing our expenses very well there. Our lineage for September was $29,017, with year-to-date at $217,483 lines. Mike, that's the best we've had since we've started recording, correct? September?
2001 was the first year we started recording. That was the only year it was higher in September.
Okay, so in 21 years, we haven't had lineage that high. So we're really seeing a resurgence there, so it's great. Page 7. Operations. So the Grand Center, we're trying to make sure that we have a secure facility there. So the ingress and egress security measures have been implemented via access token control. So on weekends, it's full token control at the facility. So we're really trying to make sure that we secure that space. Security access is now operational at Duffyland Dog Park. We've actually sent out over 400 access tokens, so those of you using that, I think it's been going well so far, knock on wood. And then the Lakeview fitness equipment replacement is estimated at Q1 of 2023. I work out there actually quite a bit, and so I'm actually looking forward to that, so hopefully you guys are too. Page 8. Events and entertainment. So the 2023 season ticket packets went on sale October 17th. The opening day sales, so we implemented actually a new online system, which has actually outperformed even our highest expectations. And so day one, we actually had 20,000 more in sales than we did last year. So get your tickets, they're going fast. Season tickets, they're on sale November 13th. Single show ticket sales start November 14th. The annual holiday celebration, we have the lake draining over there, so we're moving it over to Sundial, and it'll be December 9th, starting at 3 o'clock. So we have the duck races, so the nice sign that's out there, get your duck bucks. They're on sale here and all of the FA stations and at Lakeview. And the golf courses, thank you. And we still will have the golf cart parade. My understanding is that we have a high interest there, so if you want to sign up to decorate your golf cart, do so and contact the events and entertainment folks. And that is the State of the Union. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. I would like to now move on to an update of all open past topics that were brought up and discussed. And first one on the list is the ADA compliance with pools. And that was something that was brought up last month, that we don't have chairlifts at all sites. Management, do you want to talk about this? Do you want me to just read what I've got here in the little box?
I can talk to it if you want.
Okay, yeah, please.
Okay, sure. So we looked at this, and we're very sympathetic to these types of requests. So we actually took a look at our infrastructure that we have now. So at Marinette, we have lifts at the pool and the spa. At Sundial, we have a lift at the warm pool. Oakmont, we have lifts at the pool and spa. Fairway, we have lifts at the pool and the spa. And Lakeview, we have lifts at the spa. So we have 8 lifts in total. So we have 4 at pools and 4 at spas. And we looked at the cost. So we did our due diligence, and it's roughly going to be $17,000 to $20,000 to implement a new lift. And not only that, we would have to tear up the new cool decking at Lakeview that we just put in, to put in the electrical. And so we feel like we have a pretty good infrastructure with lifts. And then the other thing is we're looking at Lakeview in general, and we know that Lakeview is on the PIF list to be replaced. So we become conscientious of building and putting in infrastructure, related to that facility as well. So at this point, we've felt that the infrastructure that we have would reasonably accommodate, usage. So.
Okay. And I'm sorry that wasn't probably the answer you were looking for, but we do have to think about, the costs and repair and the actual utilization. So maybe we don't have it at every pool, but, and in the future, when we do Lakeview and we redo it, we can certainly think about putting it in at that point. Golf prices, I don't know that we need to necessarily put that still open, but we're going to reevaluate after, a 6-month period to see about that. The HVAC, I put that as completed because that really isn't a process of this meeting. It's, there is a process through the club's office where you put your budget requests in, so that was done. Golf, something that was brought up at the last one was about no fountains or aerators in ponds and golf courses. So I'm going to turn that over to golf because we did pass that on to them to get an answer on what we should do about that. Brian.
Thank you, President Lair. Just a little bit of a background. This obviously isn't the first time the issue of mosquitoes has come up, and golf always seems to be a target when mosquitoes come up. Mosquitoes are really a function of the high amount of rains that we've had, and that's usually the case. And I'm not even going to say the mosquitoes aren't coming from the golf courses, but they're more likely to come from the golf courses as when we get rains, that water stays on the ground for 3 or 4 days before it completely dries up, and that's about the right amount of time for mosquitoes to breed. Our lakes pump well over 1 million gallons of water a day, so there's quite a bit of water already moving through our system of lakes. Courses like all the ones north of Grand are fed by a stream system, so that water is really moving quite frequently. As we have renovated lakes, we have put in fountains and aerators, just as a added protection. And then we're also, the idea of fish, we're certainly not opposed to it. It's just that this is the wrong time of year to add a large number of fish to our lakes. As the weather cools down, the amount of available oxygen in the lake decreases too. So if you add a large population of fish this time of year, you may end up losing quite a few of them. So when we get warmer in the spring, we will be stocking the fish with they're basically goldfish that go around and would eat any kind of insects that may be growing in the lakes. But it's far more likely that those mosquitoes are coming from other spots rather than the golf course lakes. And I haven't been able to sit outside with my dogs for the last couple months because every time I go outside I get bit by mosquitoes, and I don't have a golf course within 4 miles of me. So it's just been a good year if you're a mosquito. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, the other thing, just to give you kind of an update, was last month we had kind of a long protracted disagreement with the Sun City Posse. And, I've been in contact email-wise with the commander. And maybe I should just turn it over to you as far as like what's the plan. We have a quarterly meeting that's coming up conversations with the MS, sheriffs, Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, all those letters again, I'm confused. Okay, and kind of what our interim plan is before that fourth quarter meeting, so we can make decisions with some backup knowledge. So I'm going to turn that back over to you again.
So, yeah, so we have never, RCSC has never severed any ties with the posse. We've never said, don't come on site. We have said, we can't do security patrols on site because of insurance costs and the fact that the posse cannot perform any type of security activities. So they can't perform any law enforcement. They can't even come up to somebody inside one of our buildings and escort them out. That's not part of what the posse can do. So the decision was made not to do that. And with respect to our golf courses, I think it made more sense to hire an outside agency. So we're currently trying to negotiate a contract to do that. And so that's where we're at with respect to security, but all other functions that are not considered security. And then again, this is the definition of security as defined by our insurance company. They can, the posse can continue to come on site to, do traffic control at our facilities and such. There's no issues with respect to that, and we've never severed ties. So we still provide space at our Grand facility, so they have space that is there for rent-free, and they're able to come there every day. So, there is no hard feelings from my perspective.
Did you mention about the patrols on the golf course, just a trial to see what the problem?
Yes. So the plan is that we are going to have a security patrol, an armed security patrol that actually has trespassing rights and ability to trespass. So they are going to patrol. We're going to pick one or two of our golf courses to see what we see at night, and so they will be out there at night. So just be warned. And we will send out another communication once we finalize the details with respect to that patrol.
Thank you. Okay, I think that's it for our list. I just wanted to talk a little bit before I open the mics up about time limits. I don't know if any of you were at the annual membership meeting, but even last month, we put the bell in the back so that if somebody is they're a little long-winded or whatever, and somebody went back and rang the bell, and then the guy just says, I'm not sitting down, and just kept right on going. So, and it came up again at the annual membership meeting. First, it's like no time limits, and then where's the timer? So I don't want an answer today, but I want you to go home and think about it. And do you want a time limit here? So think about it and come back with your opinions and whys and suggestions at the next meeting. I'd like now to open up the floor for discussion. And remember, you're coming forward to talk about an issue or a problem, and hopefully you're coming forward with some suggestions on how to solve the problem and any questions you may have. So the floor is open.
This question is for, I guess, all of you, but more specifically, Mr. Cook. I love your transparency in sharing this information. I get confused when I hear State of the Union. I think of that as an annual presentation, and I suggest perhaps, how about, how are we doing? Something at our level. State of the Union is like way up there once a year. Confused me. And I hope you think about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. We once again want to thank the board and management for placing the new Dog Training and Socialization Center on the PIF, and we realize this is the first step in the process. I just wanted to let people know this isn't a doghouse. We submitted a detailed business plan for a dog training and socialization center. We've not even had any meetings yet with RCSC to discuss what this building would look like, nor how much it would cost. We've just had training registration, and I'm happy to say we've increased memberships substantially, but sad to say we've had to turn members away due to our current site limitations. This isn't acceptable. All members who want to take training and socialize should be able to do so. We know Mr. Cook said it could take 10 years, but as you can see, we need a solution now. We're willing to consider both traditional and non-traditional building types so that costs can be kept low and the project can get started. Let's get to work on the next step. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, I have talked to the general manager, and I don't even know if I should even say this, but trying to look for maybe an interim solution until we, do the PIF budget later. I mean, it's going to be coming out probably at the end of the year or early next year. So that'll give us a better idea of when it's going to be on the PIF. But looking for maybe possible solutions and looking at actual utilization of maybe some of our social halls. Problem is when Mountain View goes down, we have to find a home for a lot of different places. So knowing that, but it's not totally forgotten, and we're working on it. Okay? Thank you.
Good morning. I'm here to talk about the bylaws, as you would expect. I think you'll all agree that words mean things, and when you're referring to the bylaws, those words are supposed to say what they mean, and they mean exactly what they say. So as those words relate to the membership meeting, Article 4, Section 5B, they say all motions to be voted on at the annual meeting shall be submitted to the RCSC corporate office by 4 p.m. no later than 20 days prior to the meeting date. These bylaws make no distinction between main motions, incidental motions, subsidiary motions, or privileged motions. They simply state all motions. So I guess if I'm going to need a bathroom break halfway through the annual membership meeting, I'm going to have to submit my motion to recess 20 days before the meeting, or else I won't be allowed to go. As far as board meetings are concerned, Article 5, Section 4 states, motions made at board meetings shall read and be passed 2 times. So here again, there are no distinctions between main motions, incidental, subsidiary, or privileged motions. You pass many motions with a single vote. I know you don't really want them to mean what they say, but they do say exactly what they mean. There are better ways to write those bylaws, and I suggest you take a second look, because as it stands right now, I believe you may even be committing a breach of a continuing nature whereby any action taken in violation of the bylaws is null and void. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess I'm the troublemaker that's here to complain. I've been going to Sun Bowl since, I believe, '04, and it used to be a big event here in Sun City that we used to get 5,000, 6,000 minimum. Sometimes they'd park all the way to my house. And speaking of that, I came here with my wife to the Sun Bowl a little while ago, and she didn't have her card. I left it at the house, and she had to go back. Now, we walked here that time. It's pretty far to walk, but she couldn't even come here as a gift. She said they told her that if she didn't have a red dot, the police would come and get her and take her away. Now, I think that's kind of stretching that, but that's what they told her, and I heard it. And a couple other ladies heard it, and they laughed. So the Sun Bowl, a couple of people here, at least 3 of you, have told me there are 9 events, music events, spring and fall. Now, if you want to take a look at the schedule, I have a couple schedules over there, and it shows that we're done for the year. Now, traditionally, in past years, it would have all the way till the last one would be after Thanksgiving. Now there's none in November, and the ones that we got, in all the years I've been going, we left twice early because one band hadn't played in 12 years, and they started 5 minutes late to start because Teresa was telling us how to buy tickets, and then they played 7 minutes with themselves with no singing and no advantage. And then the next 2 songs, they did play were 7 and 8 minutes long. At that point, it was realized that 2 of the guys didn't know how to play with the band, and just 2 guys were playing, and at best, they were terrible. The next week, the crowds had been going down, and they had another band that hadn't played in 10 years. They played a few good songs at the beginning, but by halfway, there weren't many people left. The last one, they moved inside, 2 back, and that was because I didn't go and check the Sun Bowl that they weren't watering the ground. Now, they canceled it because it was too wet. Now, it had rained the week before, but they were running the sprinklers every day. And then the last concert, I came over and they were running it, but they 2 people here assured me that the sprinklers weren't going to run when they're going to have Sun Bowl. I told them to come over. They ran just a half hour ago when I walked by. So Teresa and the powers that be seem to be getting rid of the Sun Bowl. I mean, we used to have people like Liberace, Bob Hope, were on the same agenda. Now, Teresa, before this, Teresa had a pretty good budget, and now we have only bad house bands that play in bars once in a while because that's all they're, and you can get them for a few $100s. She had a pretty big budget, and she handled the whole process by herself. Even when she had brain problems and brain surgery, she still took the time, and some of you probably are around then, to take care of the Sun Bowl. She was really a credit to the community. So my complaint is that are you really trying to get rid of the Sun Bowl as an event? I just heard you're going to build a storage facility. I have known what that would be, but for 60 years they've survived with the storage in the building, and that seems to be adequate. And to put out the chairs still from when they used to have good concerts, and the community would drive buses over here, but they stopped doing that because the bands are such that the people didn't want to come anymore. So even having the chairs out there is, you could probably put 10 out there and cover everybody that's in a wheelchair. So basically, you know, it's run by, it's taken the good bands and made us pay to see them. Is that what we as Sun City envisioned, that we're going to have exclusive bands and exclusive entertainment for only the people that can afford it? And if any of you have been here, they're really exclusive up front. I mean, you got to see it to believe it. Now, I am not probably in that group, but I will not, and the people I've talked to will not do that. And basically, the people I talked to yesterday think the Sun Bowl isn't worth coming to anymore, even though they've all come for a minimum of 12 years. And they've never missed it. Never once did they ever leave early because of the poor quality that we're receiving. Twice the bands have played at the bar within walking distance in the building at the end there. I don't know if I should name the name, but they play 4 sets for $600. And at the Sun Bowl, they pay for less than half of that time, and I don't know how much they get, but I'm sure it's less than $600. And I know we used to pay up to $20,000 for some of the bands years ago. So I think I like, is my time up?
Oh, no, I'm just trying to sum up what you've said so far. So you have concerns about getting access to the Sun Bowl if you don't have your card, the quality.
That is correct.
The quality of the shows, the quantity of the shows, and a question regarding getting rid of Sun Bowl altogether. And
Yes.
if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to have Teresa's right in the back to come up and answer some of your questions for you.
That would be nice.
Okay.
We have a dispute between us over this. So.
That's okay. We can agree to disagree.
Madam President, Board of Directors. Hi. I'd like to answer all your questions. I have no intentions of getting rid of Sunbowl. Sunbowl is a Sun City favorite. I'm kind of going to turn sideways so I
You can do
both.
anything, yeah.
Is that okay? I've been here over 10 years, and I have always stopped the Sun Bowl as on Veterans Day. The Sunday of Veterans Day that we celebrate Veterans Day, we always do a tribute to our veterans. So that has always been that way. The one band that came that, excuse me, was not very good or up to par, you are absolutely correct. That band had broken up during COVID. They lost a few members. They did get back together, and they were, at the time, a very big Sun City favorite. When they came back, they had a different singer, and he is correct. The vocals were not good. The music was great. Everybody does go to Sun Bowl to dance. That's the big thing for Sun Bowl. As far as budget, I don't know where you get your figures, but I certainly do not pay in the hundreds for Sun Bowl. I pay a lot more than that for use because we fill the Sun Bowl. We get 4,000 to 5,000 people at every show at the Sun Bowl. So what was the other question? Did I miss anything?
Well, right now, we're already done with our 6 concerts that you have. And usually, people here, on 3, have assured me that there's at least 9 each time with 1 at the end.
That is correct, but we start in March. So we go March and April, and we stop at Easter because of all the people that go back to Canada. And then we start again the last Sunday in September, which is the last Sunday in September is the first one. We go all the way through March up to Labor Day. October. Thank you.
Okay, and then access. His wife had,
Access. We had put a proposal together a few years ago to put a fence around Sun Bowl because we had a group, a meetup group, which was a dating group that was posting on their web pages and inviting all of their friends to come to Sun Bowl that were non-residents. And so we started trying to figure a way that we can make it for our residents only, and that's when we started checking IDs. I am usually called anytime somebody comes in to Sun Bowl with their golf card or just their key fob, and we've advertised it for the years that it has to be their card. If someone came to one of the facilities or to Sun Bowl without their card, yes, I would have definitely let them in as your guest. The volunteer did not call me on radio, so I am not aware of a situation. I would never turn anybody away. I still let them in with their key fobs, just let them know that they need to have their card the next time.
Is each guest allowed to bring a guest?
Absolutely. No, each member, not a guest. A guest cannot bring guests. Members can bring guests.
you could have done it.
So we were both members.
Right.
We didn't have her card.
She should have been let in it.
Come as
She should have. I don't know why I was not notified of that.
all the way back home.
I'm not aware of that. I'm very sorry, I'm not aware of that. They should have called me on radio and let me know. I would have came up and met you. I'm not aware of that.
Well, in front of 3 other people, the lady was kind enough to tell us if you come in now without a red dot on your hand, the police will come and take you away.
Ann, we will definitely do some more training with our volunteers. Yeah, what show are you talking, do you know? What show that was at?
Second or third shift.
I'll look and see who the volunteers were on there. Of course, we do get different volunteers, but I'm not aware of that, and that would not happen.
What happened to the paid people that used to be here?
What?
Used to do that?
What paid people that used to do?
The people that set up the chairs and things, they used to get paid a minimum, say, wage.
The staff at Fairway or at Mountain View set the chairs up, and my crew, we set all of the AV equipment.
Do the people that set up get paid now, or do they volunteers?
Oh, no, it's our AV staff.
They get paid.
The only volunteers we use is at the top of the hill to check cards for people coming in. So we're not displacing any of our members.
Okay. And I just want to add, I mean, we could spend a lot of money and bring in top name entertainers, but I mean, I'm getting a lot of pushback on raising our annual assessment by $29 that we haven't done in 6 years. We bring in, you know, top tier people, we would have to probably more than double your annual assessment. So that's, you know, we have a budget, Teresa has a budget, and she tries to do the best, she gets the best she can with the dollars that she has. You know, if there's this big outcry for, you know, top-rate entertainment, we can do that, but it's going to cost everybody on an annual basis, so just.
And Madam President, just so you know, at Sun Bowl, we are requested that it's dance. So we don't do the Vegas-type shows at Sun Bowl, we do those here, so people can sit and watch them.
No, I'm just saying, you know, you can't bring in somebody who would be performing somewhere else for dancing, and
Well, those shows there used to be at the Sun Bowl. They were even on the schedule last year. 3 of them to be at the Sun Bowl, but they became part of the paid program.
okay. Well, thank you. All right, anybody else?
If I could just
Sure.
add one thing. I think there was a question with respect to why we moved the last 2 shows to Sundial, and it was not because of the conditions of the grounds. I actually just talked to Brian. We looked at the conditions, you know, a few days out, but whenever it says that it's going to rain, you know, we need to make sure that safety of the, you know, the performers, as well as the safety of our, you know, of our members who are, you know, that's a tiered grass facility. And as Teresa said, people like to dance. So that decision has to be made at least 3 or 4 days out so that we can prepare for that and prepare the performers for that. So those last 2 were purely because the forecast said it was going to rain.
Okay, well, we have to, you know, if you wouldn't mind, somebody else is already up at the mic now, so you can talk to us after the meeting if you like. Find to Teresa. Yeah, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Do I need to say my number and all this kind of?
It would be appreciated, yeah.
No longer?
It would be appreciated.
Dan Hill, 49271. I really appreciate having been a board member for 3 years. I appreciate the job and your volunteerism, and probably the toughest job in Sun City is Bill Cook's job as a general manager. Talk about time management. Wow, amazing. I would like to comment on the October 10th board exchange regarding the posse. I have talked to Mark Fuller at length regarding the situation. Currently, it's a toxic condition between RCSC and the posse. How do we resolve that? Number one, communication. The general manager, the board president need to, at once, we're not talking about waiting from March 6 months to address a situation. It's still a situation and it's toxic. The posse still does not control traffic at RCSC events. That has not been resolved as yet. Why hasn't it?
Well, they have been involved in RCSC events. We had a big tournament for pickleball, and that was, I forget, that was in October sometime. But I was concerned about that. The posse showed up all 3 days of the tournament and did the traffic issues and parking for that. So it's, you know, I don't know why some are or some aren't. I think the plan was to get some information, and we've emailed back and forth, and the general manager has had a meeting with the Maricopa County sheriffs to make sure we're on the right page, you know, with the direction that we're going. But the thought was, let's get some facts together and then pull all the people together. And is that meeting not happening sometime this year? It's not till March. I thought it was the fourth quarter.
We have quarterly meetings, so the next one was scheduled for December.
December.
Yeah.
So that will give us some time to run these golf course nighttime things with the sheriff's office, so we can get some idea of what kind of problem are we even talking about, and get a better plan put together. Then we'll bring all the people back when we have some concrete facts and discuss it at that point. So that's kind of where we're at. It's not like we're just ignoring it.
Don't you think it's important for the safety of Sun citizens to respond back in a timely fashion?
Well,
the posse is a Sun City citizens teammate.
absolutely.
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 A high priority. And you're telling me that we need some time. The general manager is saying December.
I'm talking about the issue that was the big cause of we did not make the decision, nor did we tell them that they should not come on our property anymore. That's not how that happened. They made a decision because they wanted to patrol the golf courses at night, and we had issues with that from our insurance carrier, and we told them what the issues were. We also asked for their policies and procedures to see how they handled it. I called him on the 10th of October. I didn't get him. I left a voice message, and I immediately emailed him. At that email, I asked him for his policies and procedures. He emailed me back, didn't give me the policies and procedures. I emailed him again. I said, this is what's the holdup. We need to have those policies and procedures. I did not get the policies and procedures. To this date, I have not gotten their policies and procedures. Put that all aside. You know, it's not that, you know, we don't want them around. They made a decision to say, if we don't do this, then we won't do anything. That's kind of how it came down as a, you know, an ultimatum. We give them space at the Grand Center. It's not like we're cutting them off by any shake of the imagination. When they do show up, as they did for the pickleball tournament, it was wonderful. I was pleased to have them because I know parking there is a big issue. It's very limited, and we have people coming from all over for that, and it's a 3-day event. They were there, and it was a great thing. Now it seems like the issue, and it hasn't really been an issue because we haven't had any of the concerts over because of the rain, but it seemed like the big event was the Sunday night Sun Bowl things. That's the thing that they put they're still touring, they're still doing things around RCSC, but the concert was the big deal, and it was a big deal in October, you know, because they just, with little or no notice, decided they weren't coming. And we were very ill prepared for that. So that put everybody, all the attendees at that event were putting, you know, we had no traffic control. And we did have a couple people who drove down the wrong way in their golf carts on 107th because of the way it's set up. So all I'm saying is everybody needs to take a deep breath. I certainly have contacted them. They have contacted me. What we need to do is get our facts together and then sit down so that there isn't hard feelings. And that's That's all I can say. I think there were a lot of hard feelings on the side of the posse. They didn't feel they were respected. They didn't feel they got their, they wanted an answer. And when we told them the reason we can't give you the answer is because we needed the policies and procedures, they didn't like that. And
Bill said in his State of the Union, never severed any ties
we never severed a tie.
with the posse.
Never did.
Never.
No hard feelings.
We have no hard feelings. We have no hard feelings. We did not sever anything. They came here and they were very angry. And if you go back and watch the video, I tried to break things up here.
I know you did. Mark said to me this morning that he's waiting to hear from you and Bill. At this point, he has not heard back. Therefore, everything is still the status quo. They won't provide traffic information.
And let me add that security of our members, safety and security of our members is the highest priority. So where the posse was supporting us, we have made sure that we have backup plans by hiring outside security and in terms of managing traffic in our facilities. So we completely want to make sure that that is not a gap. And as President Lair said, I have never severed ties. All I have said is that you cannot come in here from a security perspective. That's the only thing, and that has never been an issue up until now. Prior to this, the posse has never been patrolling our facilities, patrolling our golf courses. I don't want the posse out there patrolling our golf courses at 2 a.m. when it's completely dark on a golf course. Let's hire people who are trained to do that, who have weapons on them, and who can actually do trespassing. I mean, I couldn't sleep at night putting the posse on our golf courses. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I understand that, but they must have trespassing rights.
No, they do not.
They do not. They cannot trespass.
Whoever you're considering hiring,
we are
in Youngtown, they have
That's
security,
who we're hiring, Affinium.
But they have to have trespassing rights in order to enforce and make an arrest.
We are hiring Affinium, who Mayor LaVolt has hired for Youngtown, and they have those rights. So yes.
Well, I would just make sure that the timing and action is sooner than later, and none of this 6-month stuff. I mean, time management is important as a general manager, and that should have been addressed months ago. Thank you.
Well, I will tell you this, Dan. It has been addressed, but I will give you this, that today we will contact the posse and make sure that they are aware that this meeting is coming up and this is what the agenda from our perspective is going to be, so they understand where we're at. I thought I made that pretty clear. I had multiple emails to him, but I will do it today again. And so that he's not thinking it's March. And just FYI for you as well, in the past, we never had meetings with the posse. That's something that the general manager started this last year. Just do quarterly meetings, and it's not just the commander for the posse, but it's also the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office chief, or whatever his title is, the lead guy, Stutzman, and the general manager. So, they have been working on that, and it probably wouldn't be hurt to have somebody from SHOA there as well, just because they get, called in on a lot of different things. But whatever, I will give you my word, we will make contact with him today.
The Sun City, I believe the posse is the mother bear.
Okay.
Madam President, I would like to maybe talk.
You're on.
Am I on?
You're on.
Okay. I know no, I'm not on. Oh, there I am. The last meeting, when it was brought up, I know a couple of us said that we didn't know anything about that, and I think some people yelled from the audience that we need to read the paper. Well, when I only get the weekly paper, I don't get the daily paper. So when I went home and I only get it on Monday afternoon. So after the meeting, when I went home, my paper was there, and that article was not in that paper. I went over to the independent office and got the paper. It was in the daily paper, not the weekly one. So that is why I did not, because I do read the paper, but it wasn't in the weekly paper until the following week. That day that they talked about it, it was not in that paper that day. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Joe Broush, 155997. I'm here to offer comments on the bylaw revisions that are, is that too loud? Bylaw revisions. I understand the bells in the back, and some of you are already falling asleep, so I will not address all of my concerns. If we look at the 5 things that were asked at the last general membership meeting last year in 2021, and we try to find a common theme, it might be that we wanted to reestablish the checks against the board to prevent abuse of power, to reestablish the balance, to allow, as Mr. Gannon said, a shared governance. I like to word it as the people who are mandated to pay the money have a say in what that money's spent on. Director Fimmel said that the committee addressed all 5 of those requests, and I agree with you. I believe you also said that only one failed and there were substantial changes to the others, and I'm going to have to disagree respectfully with that. Specifically, in 2021, 2022, a member fulfilling his rights and responsibilities requested a petition control number to begin a recall petition. His request followed the exact criteria written into the bylaws. His request was denied for all sorts of reasons, at least 4 times by my last count. My question is, do the revised bylaws as written prevent that from ever happening again?
Yes, please.
May I respond to that? Yes, there is now, under the new bylaws, an actual policy for making such petitions, recalls, and initiatives. And additionally, the directors are completely removed from that process. When you come to do your petition recall initiative, you'll fill out a form, and as long as it is, and I read the criterion, there's legal criterion for certain classes. As long as it doesn't conflict with that, you will automatically receive a control number.
Yes. Federally protected rights and also criteria. Who judges whether or not your form has met that criteria?
Well, there's only one criteria, that it be legal.
Okay, I'm going to state again.
There are certain classes.
I know, I understand.
As long as you are not in conflict with that, you get a control number.
The wording you put in here is that a recall petition must set forth the existing policy, rule, or bylaw being challenged. Who determines that? Whether or not that was met?
As long as you have stated a basis for your action and you're not in opposition to the law, you get a control number.
Thank you. I'm going to state again that Mr. Tolan's request followed the exact criteria written into the bylaw, and his request was denied. You're saying if you follow the exact writing of the bylaw, your request will not be denied.
That's right.
But it was in the past. We have historical evidence that it was. Sir? Is there something to prevent that from happening now?
Yes, sir. The original, I'm going to go into some detail here so that you fully understand where we're coming from and that everybody understands where we're coming from. And I'll speak for myself, but there were others on the committee who believed the same thing. We originally, last year, the board has to approve the recall petition. I, as secretary, requested, and it was done. The petitions were sent to the attorney for a legal opinion. Had the legal opinion come back that it had met the criteria, I would have voted to allow the recall petition. However, the recall petition, the legal opinion came back saying the opposite, and I'm not going to knowingly violate an attorney's viewpoint except if I strongly disagree with it. So I didn't have an agenda there. I just simply sent it to the corporate attorney. However, I disagreed with some of the things that had been done. I, for one, originally started with wanting to have the recall petitions be allowed for no reason at all. That came close to going through. However, the document, being the bylaws, went through legal advice. It was pointed out to us that legally the RCSC could well be held liable if we allowed unconstitutional or illegal petitions to go forth, such as going against somebody because of race, gender, and a number of other things, disability. As a result, in order to protect the corporation, we added the criteria in. I don't want to have to vote on whether somebody can be recalled or not, but I'm also not going to open us up to potentially millions of dollars of liability. Others may want to put their money up for that, but the committee decided that it did not want to do that. So, except in extreme circumstances in which it is abundantly clear that something is being proposed or somebody is being recalled because of something that is illegal, such as race, we'll just stick with that temporarily, those petitions are meant to go through. So there is a substantial difference between what these bylaws do and what the prior bylaws do. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely not, and thank you. I'm going to just say this and then move on because I have the documentation. If anybody out there is curious, the bylaws state, and I quote, "A recall petition will set forth the name of the board of director whose removal is desired and the reason for the recall, period, end sentence, end paragraph, end concept, name, reason." That's the exact wording in the existing bylaws. I have the letters from the attorney that say he's denying it because he didn't like the reason, because the reason was vague, non-specific. You read these letters and you fully understand what I'm talking about. He denied because they were brief, vague, ill-defined, and conclusory. Nowhere in the bylaws document were his reasons for denial stated. Is that correct?
Sir, I'm standing by that legal opinion. That's the advice I got.
I understand.
I'm not acting as an attorney for the corporation, but let me finish.
Okay.
Having said that, one of the things that the people who brought the 5 petitions or 5 motions at the board meeting or the annual meeting last year wanted was to be able to get recall petitions. I, for one, agree that they should be able to get them, as long as it doesn't violate our bylaws and as long as the petition is not based on something illegal. I believe, and I believe Director Fimmel, you can speak for yourself, Director Fimmel, think that that has been addressed. You may not agree with that, but we spent a lot of time doing that. There were other things we addressed too. So we may have a difference of opinion on that, but we tried to get the board out of that to the best of our abilities while protecting the corporation from making itself liable for things that were illegal that might be interpreted as being sanctioned by us.
Madam President?
Yes.
I want to repeat, because I want everybody to have clarity. What was. What is under the new bylaws is that the directors are no longer involved in that process at all. You fill out the form as long as you have not do not have your bases, one of the legal exclusions. You will get a control number and the process can begin. You're talking about prior procedures. I want to talk about the new procedures, which make it far more easy for the petition process to proceed. You fill out the form, you get a control number. There's no gatekeeper for anything that isn't potentially exclusory by law.
Thank you. Sorry.
If I could just ask Secretary Wanewski for some clarity about this. So you're saying that the board will be excluded from making a decision, but it seems to me as though the board was excluded from making that decision historically as well, because you went to legal counsel and you had legal counsel put forth any number of reasons that are not included in our bylaws for denying the petitions. So how do we have the assurance that in the future that will not happen?
Well, first of all, this is a board member exchange, not a board-to-board exchange, but go ahead and answer the question, and then let's keep it focused. This gentleman
I
is
appreciate Director McAdam verbalizing
fine.
what I was trying to say.
Okay.
And again, I'm trying to make clear that the board is not involved under the new bylaws. You're shaking your head, but they're not.
I'm shaking my head because the board wasn't involved last time. That's exactly what she said. The board pushed it off to the attorney, and the attorney invented ideas and reasons why to deny it. My question
Not
is a
all-
yes or no question.
And I'm telling you, no, that's not true. Because when I was the secretary, I turned it down because I was looking for cause. I didn't run it past legal. That was me. And then
One time.
And you pulled me in the back and you showed it to me.
One
and
time.
it's
There were 4 times.
Sir,
The question is, okay, can the attorney, as he did in the past, make up reasons to deny a petition control request?
Sir?
Yes or
first of
no?
all- No, sir, I'm going to answer the question, and I'm not going to give a yes or no answer, because it calls for more. Number one, you're assuming the attorney acted in bad faith and made things up.
I did not say that.
Just a second. I'm assuming the attorney acted in good faith and gave his legal opinion. Second of all, without going into executive sessions, which I cannot go into the things, I can say under the old bylaws, the board had to make a decision. So when a recall petition would come in general meetings, in a general situation, the board would have to vote on to approve it or not approve it. We believe that we have taken that out. So the question is, we believe we've answered yes to the question with one very, very limited situation. If somebody's coming after people based on illegal reasons such as age, sex, national origin, and things like that. And I don't think anybody here would want to have a recall petition approved that discriminated against somebody based on the protected classes. I certainly wouldn't. So my goal was to get us completely out. It became obvious that we were opening up to major liability if my goal was reached 100%. So it's only reached about 98%. But the answer is we answered yes to you guys. I'm not going to defend last year's actions. The bylaws committee was formed, and the bylaws are presented to try to resolve these problems. I can sit back and talk about grievances that I've had for years. I want to move forward together to try to solve this. We believe that we tried to address these things, and we believe we have.
Thank you. Second issue was petition signed on company property. That one clearly failed. Reasons, Director Eggy's not here. He said it would be up to the staff to police that, which I don't understand because the staff does not now police normal activity of our members. There are people who sit in lobbies of our recreational facilities, who sit at these tables, they read books, they talk to people. That's not policed by the staff. The other reasons were that some people didn't want it. I believe that was the reason given. Some people do, some people don't. That in itself is not a reason. I was wondering if the 4 directors, and well, there's only 3 of them here now, who voted against that could maybe give the real reason?
Sir? I was one of the directors.
Director Lansky, we heard your explanation as to why you voted against removing that provision. Can I ask the directors who forced you to vote that way if there's a reason other than some people do and some people
Nobody
don't?
was forced.
Sir, there's a misnomer that I was forced to. I was given a situation.
I retract the word forced.
Thank you.
Coerced. Thank you.
Not coerced.
I don't, in a democracy, in a place that's not run as a complete dictatorship, compromise is necessary.
You said you voted in contradiction to what you wanted.
I was, compromise is necessary.
Okay.
Much as I hated that compromise, to pass the rest of it, I voted with those 4. You guys can make your judgment as to whether I acted correctly or not.
Compromise.
But to use forced or coerced, in life, sometimes you realize you're not going to get 100% of what you want, or even 90% or 80%. I made a judgment call. That is in no way saying that anybody forced me to do that. No one threatened me to do that. I was given facts that certain members were going to vote against the entire bylaws if that stayed in, and I made my judgment call.
Thank you. Dr. Wilson?
I told you the reason.
You said several people didn't like it.
Several people told me they were not for
In
it.
December of 2021, 1,400 voices said they were in favor of it. Do you have another reason?
Actually, one person said they were in favor of it.
We had a straw vote. Yes? Was I imagining that, or did somebody read that and 1,400 people said yes? So that's evidence that that many people wanted it.
Again, I told you the reason why.
Several people don't want it. Director Lair?
First of all, did we forget about our civility here? You know, I feel like I'm personally.
I'm going to ask you.
No, let me finish. I have the mic now, Joe.
I'm sorry.
I have the mic now.
Yeah, I know.
And you're talking to me, and I'm talking to you. And we can agree to disagree. But here's the deal. I belong to a couple clubs. I talked to people as well as one bowling or golf league. And I asked them point blank, you know, what do you think about this? And they were like, well, I don't get it. What's the problem? What? You know, and I said, well, you know, people could just come up. They can come in. They can ask questions. They can ask, you know. And they said, well, who are these people? I said, why would they be doing a referendum or a recall? And then what happened is discussion took place, and I can't give you the exact verbiage, but the comments were, oh, it's the same group of people that are constantly complaining at the meetings. I don't want any part of it. It's the same people talking all the time, always looking at the problems. I'm telling you, the majority of people that aren't here, the golfers, how many golfers are here today? I see one person I know from Clay is here. I see a lady that belongs to the beading club or the hand weavers and spinners. They're not here. And they're not here because they like and enjoy what they did. We had a lady who came up at the annual membership meeting. It was a breath of fresh air, and she loves Sun City, and she loves all the opportunities that are here. Believe me, if there was a huge problem, we would be packed. You know, and that's why it's like people don't want to get into all the negative blah, 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 blah. That's one of my reasons. My other reason is, I think that there's a group of people who have done nothing but weaponized the recall. And I personally, as a sitting member of this board of directors, has been threatened no less than 3 times by another sitting member of this board that if I don't vote a certain way, or you don't act on this, or you don't provide a certain kind of a meeting, you're going to find yourself on the wrong end of a recall petition, Dale. And that's fact. We have to move beyond this. We are volunteers. We put an incredible amount of time into this. We may not always agree with where you are at, but that doesn't mean that we should be sitting ducks for constant criticism. We're making the best decisions that we make. And I will tell you this, sir, that we have a fiduciary responsibility to this corporation. We have a pledge of loyalty to this corporation. You may not like it. You think it has to be the members. But we are not the mayor. We are not the town council. We are sitting on a board of directors for a corporation. And if we make a decision against legal counsel or not in the benefit of the corporation, and there is a lawsuit, we are personally liable for that. I am not willing to put my retirement, my home, my lifestyle on the line to please members who aren't wanting things done in the best interest. So it's real easy to sit there and make comments. You have nothing to lose. I have everything to lose. So if we have input from a legal counsel who tells us this is not. In fact, somebody brought a question up last year at the board orientation, and our attorney was there, and the question was asked, and he told us if a motion like that passes, my advice to you is to resign immediately. So I'm just giving you the facts here. I have to look at not the people who fill here and have lots of criticisms, but I'm supposed to be representing all 39,000 people. That's my answer.
And I hope I was respectful while listening to your answer, and no, I didn't follow it. The reason is because some people want it and some people don't. The second thing you said was because you're being threatened by other board members, and I appreciate you saying that because I'm going to use that in a second. Okay. The point is that it failed, and it's what the people asked for. The third ask was that you allow members to conduct business as they are allowed to, including amending bylaws during a duly called meeting without passing through some 50-odd checks. You currently, in the bylaws revision, is that possible?
Okay, can I answer that question? Because I've gotten emails.
Can you answer it with a yes or no question, or yes or no answer, or no?
No.
Okay.
I cannot answer it with a yes or no question, but here's the deal. I made a mistake when I told you that you would have opportunities to speak to the motion. I thought you could do that in October. But we have a parliamentarian. So I put together my agenda.
This has nothing to do with it.
Oh, yes, it does. It has absolutely everything to do with it. And I put it on the agenda as new business so that it could be, so members could come forward and speak to the agenda item. It was not appropriate. I was corrected by the parliamentarian because it was a committee recommendation. Therefore, at the meeting, the business meeting last month, members could not address, they could not, because according to Robert's Rules of Order, you can only speak to agenda items. This was a committee recommendation. So at the very next meeting, it will now it is on the regular agenda. Now you will have an opportunity to speak to it.
Sorry if I misspoke. The ask was to allow members at a duly called membership meeting to conduct business, including amending the bylaws. Gene Totten's motion at the 2021 membership meeting. To strike the language that said all our votes and motions simply go to the board for recommendation. She asked to strike that language. That language was not struck. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Thank you.
No, I'm going to finish, sir. You don't get to cut me off. I won't cut you off. You don't cut me off. That was not struck.
Civility checklist, everybody.
Okay. That was not struck because the board has a fiduciary duty on everything that goes on and has to do it. It has a chance to seek expert advice and to consider it. The membership, and the membership certainly needs to be heard, does not have that same fiduciary duty. It does not have the same liability. If it wishes to take that, individuals, that's certainly their prerogative. However, we did set up a procedure which fundamentally changes parts of what has occurred to make sure that the membership would get a chance to overrule the board if they wanted to. One of the problems that I saw and that I personally did not like was that things that were brought up at the membership meeting did not have to be considered by the board, and they just died. There are members of this board that seem to have endorsed some of those provisions but have not introduced them. I thought it was, and I've said all along that I will not introduce them because I'd vote against them, but I think they should have been considered. In law, a lot of times, there's sort of a sunset thing, and that is that if some action is not taken by an administrative agency or a board within a certain amount of time, it is deemed denied, which means it's the same as being denied, and therefore the board can go, the membership can go and seek its petitions and seek remedy. That is in there. That fundamentally changes being able to just pocket veto something. Again, this board has a fiduciary duty to protect this corporation. The membership, by the articles, gets a say. The membership can make the recommendation. The board can either grant it, deny it, or deny it by basically operation of the bylaws, which is the same as an outright denial, and seek to get petitions to that. That was a hard-worked compromise. Now, I understand that part of that compromise did not go through by a vote of 5-4, which was to allow petitions on property. And I intend, again, next year in the new board, to try to get that passed as a bylaw so the entire compromise goes forward. We also did something else that I think is extremely important that was part of what the membership wanted, or at least the members who showed up wanted. I won't say the 39,000 membership, I'll say the 1,400 or so. And that is tied together with proxies and a quorum. I received a letter, an email from somebody saying reducing proxies to 10 is not a compromise. Well, when you take it into account that we dropped the quorum from 1,250
Can I sit down during
to
this?
800.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but I'm not, that wasn't the question I was
Okay,
asking.
I'll withdraw.
I'm sorry.
Okay, then go ahead, sir.
With all due respect, you're running off on a tangent, and
Go
I'm
ahead.
trying to address this.
Go ahead.
Don't mean to be rude.
That's fine. I'm not taking it as rude.
Okay.
Will this end by Christmas?
Spoken up.
Yep, you're done.
You're done. You should have been done a long time ago.
Yep.
I see a show of hands. If I can get any verification that I can finish off what I'm trying to say, please.
Finish? Yes.
Finish. Yes.
Finish
Thank you.
today, tomorrow, next week?
Civility.
I know.
And just if you want to roll the tape as the amount of time I've spoken and the amount of time they've spoken, maybe we can figure that out, because I'm asking direct questions that require a yes or no
Get
answer.
with it.
Let's go.
Just go.
Jesus. Oh, my God. What was requested at the membership meeting failed. The bylaws now provide.
Joel,
That's not the actual bill.
that's the bell.
Sit down.
How many minutes was that exactly? That's crap.
Are you going to follow the rules, or are you going to?
Ask again. Ask the audience.
I'm going to keep going. The bylaws now provide for 6 directors operating on a personal agenda or a predetermined intent can remove another director without legitimate or real cause. You guys introduced a full page of procedures, but is it still possible for 6 directors with a personal agenda or predetermined intent to remove another director without legitimate reason or cause?
No.
It's never.
How? They can follow the procedure that you lined out, but if it's already predetermined in their head that they're going to vote that person off, they can in fact do that, yes?
No, they need legitimate cause, otherwise they're violating their fiduciary duty, and I'm not going to assume that a member of the board of directors is knowingly going to violate its fiduciary duty in the corporate laws of Arizona.
But they can.
No.
Sir, I've answered. No, they need a legitimate cause. That's my view.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the word yes. The quorum was the 5th ask, and there appears to be a lot of opinion on what that number should be set. My question is, do we have any objective criteria or historical data or historical fact that sets that number, or is it just literally everybody's opinion? Because Director Frimley used the words that 800 can be easily met. So my question is, when has that number been met in the past 20 years?
Well, first off, the quorum hasn't been set at 800, so having met it in the past is not a logical objective. All of this activity was by committee and by compromise. You wanted the quorum to be lowered, and the quorum was lowered. It wasn't lowered to the amount you would have liked, but the quorum was lowered. Well, when I say that, a number was set. The membership asked, I believe, for 500. Obviously, that didn't occur. What did occur was a compromise at 800. The reason for the limitation of the proxy is simply to ensure equal voice of the participants, so that a small group of people cannot control the wishes of the many. It's an equity issue. The objective, if the objective was to meet the quorum, and I think it was, then it is easier to meet a quorum of 800 than it is to meet a quorum of 1250.
Thank you. I said I understand that's your opinion. I was asking for criteria or historical data. Do you have any?
How can there be historical data when the
We have
quorum
20
has not
years, we
been?
have 60 years of
We're
annual
not
membership
walking
meetings.
encyclopedias. I couldn't tell you what,
I can,
for the last 20 years.
Ben left, there, no time.
But let's not go there. Yeah, I'm sure you
Okay.
have it.
I was asking for criteria or historical data, and you have none. Thank you.
I'll give you a criteria. The state of Arizona, if it's not done, if the quorum is not reduced or
understand that.
raised. No, I'm going to finish. The quorum is 10%. We have about 39,000 members, so if we had not done anything and just let state law do under the criteria decided by the state, you would need approximately 3,900 members for a quorum. So that would be the objective criteria set by the state of Arizona.
I would also like to comment that the quorum is there to protect the membership. What you don't want is a small handful of people coming in with 100 proxies and making suggestions and changes. Thank you. Oh, and you've already been up once, so John gets the mic. You have to wait.
I'm John.
Tom, you sit down because Ben's behind you as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for the reminder about civility. I read that too in the Independent, and I thought that was really good. I have a suggestion, though. Not a complaint, not an accusation, or not. With respect to the reason for recall, and Alan, Director Winofsky, I'm sorry. I got to get used to that.
Either one's fine.
Okay. Director Winofsky, as I understand it, you can't try to recall somebody for illegal reasons, which you've stated in the bylaws. What Title VII did, all of those things that we all have agreed as United States citizens are not appropriate to use. May I suggest that you change the language in the bylaws so that there is a negative affirmation that I am not filing this recall petition for any of these reasons and have it signed, as opposed to stating a reason for the recall. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ben Roloff, 12663. A whole bunch of different things. I didn't really intend to talk much about anything today. Dale, relax. Nobody's going to sue you. Well, they could.
They could.
But, I mean, anybody can sue anybody, and we know that. But two things. One, you're very well insured with an errors and admission policy as a director. Secondly, you have the articles in your articles that say you are fully indemnified by us, that we would pay all expenses for any defense, judgments, or whatever. It's your indemnifications clause, and you should never, ever serve on a corporate board unless it's there, whether it's your condo association or whatever it is. So relax, you're okay.
But that's only true if you act in the best interest of the corporation.
Well, if you are acting against the best, not only the best, but purposely are breaking the law or something, I'm not so sure how anyone is going to stand behind you, us included. I really didn't want to talk about history today, but I really have to. One is that for the gentleman who talked about the Sun Bowl history, there is so much of it. I won't tell you all of it. I'll tell you just a little bit about it. The last big-time act here left in 1978, and that's the year Del Webb left the community and quit using the Sun Bowl to sell houses. He paid for all the entertainment, not the rec center. He then gave the Sun Bowl to the rec center, and there was never, ever any kind of budget to bring in Las Vegas acts or the TV acts as there was before. If you wanted to know more about it, I taught a 2-hour class on the history of the Sun Bowl and brought Teresa in to team teach the last 45 minutes as to how we have morphed in today and going from where we moved in here in '97, a full litany of Sunday night entertainment of being the Army Band, the Navy Band, the Air Force Band, the Coast Guard Chorus, etc., to dance bands and everybody dancing. And, you know, that's the agenda for the day. Toxicity, I hate that word. And I really, really hate where we are right now. Come on, boys and girls, can we not just sit down and have a cup of coffee? We don't have a city government to help with these decisions. We have organizations, and we have to work together. We have to talk together. We have done it so many times, not only for organizations, but for groups within the community. 60 years ago, the RCSC invited, can you believe this, invited all the health professionals to come to one of our 2 rec centers down in Oakmont, 1962, and they put on a one-day clinic to administer the new polio shots that became available. They inoculated not only well over half of Sun City, but over half of Youngtown in one day. And then they came back and finished it up. That's called working together, folks, with organizations within the community. That's what we hope for. Please get this thing with the posses settled. Don't wait for formal meetings and formal agendas. Sit down and have a cup of coffee. Talk it over. Find out where you got some places where you can agree. Do that for all of us. We are very interested in the bylaws. I have to just give you a quick thing about elections and bylaws, and that's where we are right now, the middle of the elections. The first time we had election on the original bylaws, it said that all the board members, all 9 of them, had a one-year term. We had enough wonderful people who were really skilled in this community. There was no need to serve more than 1 year. Give everybody a chance. Well, interestingly enough, the other thing that said in the bylaws is that the candidates to replace them would be the sole responsibility of the outgoing president. Picked all of the candidates. A committee of 1. Well, that was changed after 1 year. And for about 24 years, they had a nominations and elections committee, which was made up of the board. The president of the board appointed all 5 people, they were all board members, to determine who the candidates would be. And that lasted until one lady came on the board who said, really, this is not the way to do things. We should have a self-nomination procedure, as we have today, where you can go down and pick up the papers and get that proceeded. Well, that was not met with a split on the board. So she came back with a compromise and said, how about if we have nomination papers signed? 10%, that magic 10%, 3,200 signatures.
Wow.
I don't know if they could sign them on property. Well, yeah, I do know they could sign them on rec center property, but that never got to a vote. The other group on the board says 0 signatures. You should just be able to pick up the papers and file. They compromised between 3,200 and 0 with 100 signatures. Sound familiar, candidates? Still in the bylaws today. Still stayed there. What was also in the bylaws was that candidates could not run for re-election, Steve and Darla. And that was there until just very recently. In fact, it came in the year that we rebuilt Fairway. That's pretty new in our history of 62 years, that you could have a second term. But we had 1-year terms, we had 2-year terms, we had 3-year terms. The bylaws just keep getting amended. So yes, we're going to finish up some bylaws here, but those are not the last bylaws. For those of us who are unhappy with them, as I expressed to you some of my unhappiness at the last meeting, there's another time coming Sometimes the bylaws have been argued over, and like we are doing today, over the provisions, and they've lasted for a grand total of 1 month. And a new board was seated in January, and back came the bylaw provisions, and all of that work was set aside. Sometimes it went back to the old ways, sometimes it was like a whole new idea. So we thank you for your work. You've done great work getting all those policies back out of the bylaws where they belong. That was wonderful. Should be complimented. You've made some important changes. You've done some compromising. Some people are happy. Some people, maybe a lot of people don't really give a rip one way or the other what they say. Yeah. As long as things, as Dale was talking about, the silent majority. But we've got new elections coming up. We've got new problems to face. We'll have a new board to look at. And we'll carry on. We will carry on as long as we as in a community, whether we be the homeowners, the condominium associations, the Pride, the Posse, the RCSC, Sun City Community Assistance Work, operated in our spheres, and that we all work together. Then we can continue. And this can continue to be the wonderful place that we chose for our retirement. So bless your hearts. We will continue. The sun will be up tomorrow. Thank you for listening.
I would like, am I on? I'm not on. Oh, I'm on now. Am I on? Okay. The election, the RCSC web portal opened up for elections today. So today you can start voting online. And if you don't want to vote online, you can also call the corporate office for an absentee ballot, or you can wait until December 13th to vote in person.
You can come into the corporate office also and pick one up.
Oh, yeah, you can come into the corporate office also to pick up an absentee ballot.
Bill Pearson, 133438. In Paul Harvey's immortal words, the rest of the story is this. Ben left it off. The young woman that passed that motion was Jane Freeman, who founded the museum. And by the way, she quit after 2 years on the board rather than filling out her 3-year term. We're still not sure why. Sitting in the back of the room, I always cringe when I have somebody say to me, "We never did that." The posse used to patrol, I say lightly, because what they did was drive over around the golf course. And they didn't do overnights. They worked until 11 or 12 at night. But I all too often saw them driving on Riverview as I walked my dogs at 9:30 at night. They drove it. So please don't say they never did that. They did. The interesting piece of the posse is they started just, I think, Dan, the beginning of this year, the overnights. To my knowledge, they never did that before. They usually quit at 11 or 12 o'clock. And the fact that they found volunteers to go out and drive our streets, and by the way, they never had policing authorities. They never asked for it. They never expected it. They were the eyes and ears. They got on the phone and they made a phone call. They never jumped out of their car. That little 92-year-old lady didn't jump out of the car and try and break up a drug deal. They got on the phone and they called the MSCO. So let's be very clear. For 50-plus years, that's been what they've done. They're not asking to do more than that now. I heard Bill say the other day at the annual membership meeting that wasn't? That he had been in contact with the MSCO, the commander, and the first question I said to myself was, why wasn't the commander of the posse? So the three of them were there so you could actually resolve something. Logically, I keep hearing people say logically, and I go, well, logically, that's what I would have done.
Can I answer that?
Yeah, please.
The reason behind that is I don't want MCSO to be the mediator between us and the posse. That's not their role. The whole purpose of that meeting was to make sure that they were in agreement with us hiring a company like Affinium. So I wanted to get back, word from them that said Affinium is a company that we have and support, and that they would be able to do a good job for you guys to patrol your golf courses. So I do not want MCSO. I never wanted MCSO to be a mediator in this. This is between us and the posse.
Okay, I guess. Are the posse no longer checking doors on the golf courses at night? Has that stopped too?
Checking doors?
Yeah. You know that they drive through Riverview and Oakmont?
Well, they drive through the parking lots. I get that. I have no issues with that.
Are they doing that, though?
I don't know.
Have they stopped, that's what I meant, have they stopped that as well?
I know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Again, only because as a president of the Del Webb Sun Cities Museum, occasionally we would have a door left open, and I would get a phone call and say, Bill, there's a door left open, can somebody come down? And I'd race down there. And I know they did that with our buildings as well. Maybe you guys never had it happen. I just was curious. I don't want to get into a debate on the bylaws. I do have a question, though, a couple of them. Dale, is the first reading going to be in November, or are you considering this the second reading of the bylaws?
Well, typically, the first reading was the one that we just did in October. So this would be the second. If it passes in November, then it goes into effect. It's been on the agenda twice.
So we're clear, for 20 years that I can recall, that I've been here, every time a bylaw was going to be changed, it was presented to the membership in paper form on an agenda, and we would see it twice. And then there was that period of time where we'd actually see it 3 times. So as of the October meeting, we saw what you emailed out, some of us, not everybody by any stretch of the, not all 39,000, actually there's only 32,500 members, you know that, Elton. 39,000, it used to be 39,000, but we're nowhere near that. I think we have that many privilege card holders. So now we still have nothing as far as the changes, because when I sat here through that very long October meeting, I couldn't make heads or tails of what. And I mean, you guys had the paper in front of you, and it was confusing. For those of us in the room, imagine how we felt, because we were just sitting here going, what the hell did she say?
No.
So I, as you were walking out the door, I said to you, 2 readings. I mean, I heard Alan's plea that we can't let this go on forever. If you have 2 readings, November and December, with comments on both, that could put it in play January 1. That isn't like years down the road. That's like an extra month. So I'm confused why we would not do it that way.
Well, because I'm following Robert's Rules of Order. That's the bottom line. And as I mentioned before, I made a mistake, and I thought I could put it into new business. And I said that to this group, that they would have that opportunity, only to find out that I was in error in Robert's Rules, and that it had to come in as a committee recommendation. I don't want to say, I'd have to look at our bylaws and talk to the parliamentarian again to see if it's even possible to do that. But,
well, you know, Robert's Rules of Order only are present when our bylaws are silent on it. Our bylaws say 2 readings. We didn't really have a first reading.
Well, you did. You had a really long one, but you didn't get to comment it.
We didn't get to comment, and we have no clue what you actually did. I mean, I'll be honest.
Well, and you can do as I did and go back and watch the whole 3.5 hours again and take notes. That's what I had to do. But here's the deal. I know there's been some scuttlebutt about why those aren't out yet, and here's the honest to gosh truth on this. It was a 2-page agenda, 3.5 hours to go through this, and then, we threw in a annual membership meeting, and then we're a week early because of Thanksgiving. So timing-wise, it's been very difficult. And we are working, as soon as we get it all finished, we will send it out, even if it's before the requirements of the bylaws, the minimum. But I'm telling you, it's been a process I've had to go through. And there's a lot of things that, when you're following Robert's Rules of Order, I have to be aware of not only the motions that passed, but the motions that didn't pass. Because it's not, you cannot bring those up again and just change a few words and think you're going to beat the same dead horse. So there's a lot more to it than it just seems, but I'm telling you, it was a very long meeting. It's a very complex process. We're doing the best that we can, and as soon as we have our minutes prepared and with the revisions, and I think Marcia is even going to put in the cross-offs and the highlights so that it will be as clear as possible to you, and hopefully we will get those out before the end of the week.
The minutes or the?
The changes to the bylaws.
The changes to the bylaws.
I'm not even arguing for it. I would be content.
Well, I've gotten emails from people that they want that, like yesterday.
No, I understand the process. Ben actually described it as legendary, what you guys did, because that's never been done before in our history. And I'm using the word never. Nothing like that has ever been done before. All I'm arguing is if you really want to do it in accordance with our bylaws, present it in November, first reading, present it in December, vote on it in December, and then it either passes or fails. And whatever it is,
and what I'm saying is, you know, it says in our bylaws that we shall follow Robert's Rules of Order. Robert's Rules of Order told us we had to put it in as a committee recommendation. And then there are 2 readings, which we had the first reading. It was a long, protracted reading, but it did take place. You didn't get to comment on it. That's the only thing that falls out of sync here with this.
Actually, it's not, because you changed it while we were sitting there. I have no idea what you passed.
Exactly, because there were amendments.
I get it. So if you read the amendments and then pass it in December,
even if it
where's the harm?
Well, I just want to follow, I shall follow Robert's Rules of Order.
Madam President, can I say something, please? Yes. I'm sorry, but I do have to agree with Mr. Pearson. I did not believe that was a first reading the last time we did that, because it came as a committee recommendation. I always thought we had got 2 readings on agenda items. It was not an agenda item. It was only a committee recommendation. After a committee recommendation, then we make a motion to put it on the agenda for the next meeting, and then the members get to speak on it, and that would be our first reading. Then we have a second reading unless we waive the first reading. So that is how my understanding is that I didn't realize that was a first reading, because I thought it was just came in as a committee recommendation.
Director Wilson.
We have always had 2 readings on committee recommendations. The first one is what we just went through, and then we have the second reading. That's been the way it's always handled on committee recommendations.
And on committee recommendations, has there ever been changes like this?
There have been changes in the past.
Not like this.
No, it hasn't. We've never had this much at one time.
If you made changes on committee recommendations, it was this much and everybody understood. I can't tell you what you passed through your 3.5, and I didn't want to read it. I watched part of it again, and I plucked my eyes out with a spoon.
I know.
So, you know, God love you for sitting there and doing it again. But the whole goal of this process is so people understand what you're doing. And I'll wait until that meeting in November, and hopefully again in December when you read it again, and we can have this discussion on some of the language, the actual language in there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I don't think it's afternoon yet.
But getting there.
I know. Linda McIntyre, 123216. I know it's already been a long meeting. I want to touch on something that I don't think has really been discussed today, and that's the area of budget, finance, and audit. But before I comment further, I think it's really important that I provide a bit of background so that you know about my experience that I have in the area of finance, and especially as it relates to management of nonprofit. organizations and my involvement in the public sector, so that I'm not just up here to complain. For nearly 8 years, I was the executive director and CEO of a 501c6 organization, a chamber of commerce. And for nearly 7 years, I served in the same capacity as the director of a 501c community foundation, C3 community foundation, excuse me. During this 15-year period, I was also a 3-year board member of our local United Way. And 6 years I served as an advisory member of our local Economic Development Corporation. After some downsizing, we now spend our summers in a much smaller municipality. And 3.5 months this summer, I spent as the interim clerk treasurer of our small municipality after the abrupt departure of a former employee for, let's say, mismanagement in her position. The other 25 years of my work experience was mostly spent as a paralegal and as an appointed deputy clerk and an elected circuit court clerk position. And 3 years I worked with the Wisconsin Supreme Court, 2 years of that as a deputy director of the Wisconsin Circuit Court's automation records management system. And my main responsibility was oversight of the development and initial implementation of its accounting system, which also included having to coordinate the interface of that system with various state agencies that included revenue, transportation, state patrol, and child support. And we successfully implemented that system in 12 of Wisconsin's 72 counties while I was there. So I come from this with experience of nonprofit management, board experience, staff experience. So I've walked in your shoes. I understand your commitments. I understand your problems, the issues you deal with, and the responsibilities that you bear. My concern is, and I understand the board-staff relationships and the difficulties that you have to balance, but I also believe that there are legitimate reasons for concerns that there's problems and with the board maybe not performing some of its due diligence in the oversight of RCSC finances, and the board, the committees, and managements just aren't working as a team to accomplish the mission and goals of RCSC. I've heard the budget referred to several times as the GM's budget, and I'm not going to presume to know how the budget was really put together. But I know from experience and industry standards that they're how they're typically done. I haven't been able to find any standing committee minutes since spring that reference budget preparation matters and/or referrals to the very important work of the Budget and Finance Committee. General Manager Cook often refers to Sun City West in his presentations and remarks. So I'm going to quote Sun City West President's remarks from an article in their recent newsletter. October kicked off the important budget process. We will see several iterations at meetings of committees, the board, and member forums before the governing board gives its final approval in May of 2023. October to May to do their budget, involving board, staff, committees, and public forums. The public, members, owners. How did ours work? From my observation, the GM, or the Director of Finance, presented the staff's budget to the Finance and Budget Committee, I believe on the October 19th meeting. I'm not sure how long the committee had to review it before that meeting. From the minutes, it appears they reviewed it they had a 2.5-hour meeting. It was discussed and passed, roughly a $28 million budget. It was forwarded to the board. It was voted down. Budget and Finance had a meeting last Friday for their regularly scheduled review of the third quarter. The 2023 budget was not on the agenda, except that the chair did request that the GM look into why, surprisingly, 2 clubs have received approximately, I believe the number was somewhere in the 70% area of the club's fund requests for the last 2 years, 2 major clubs. The budget's going to come back before the board again on November 17th. It needs to be adopted before the year end. Based on my own experience and industry standards, and they're broad in the nonprofit world, in the tax-exempt world, I don't believe this meets your proper oversight and involvement of the board and the various committees of the RCSC. Even if we use Sun City West as our guide, they use 6 months to prepare a budget. There's a lot of input. I'm not going to stand up here and pretend I know what the finance director and Mr. Cook has used, but it doesn't seem to be transparent. It doesn't seem that there's information out there. And I know from my own personal experience that the community foundation that I managed would have never met our national standards certification if we had managed our major portion of our financial operation in this manner. But there's also more than the budget. The Budget and Finance Committee meets how many times a year? Twice? 3 times?
This year it'll be 4.
That really surprises me. This is a $100+ million operation. The budget's $28 million, roughly. I don't have the exact figure. I ran a small foundation that was $7 million. You're lucky you don't have to fundraise for operational money. This is not what I believe industry standards to be. And beyond that, it's more than the budget. When does the board have a real work session on budgets? I'm stunned that the board is going to come to a meeting again in November, and you're going to pass a budget for $28 million. And there's very little debate by the board. We very seldom see debates on major issues. This is a major issue. You talk about fiduciary responsibility. This is a big one. It almost leaves me speechless. And that leads me to another concern, my last one. I'm going to try to wrap it up. But I'm curious about the last time an audit report was made to the board. I don't recall having seen or heard an audit report, and there's no reference to audits online. The only reference to audits in the bylaws is in the treasurer's responsibilities, where it says that at the end of each year, the treasurer shall ensure the financial records are audited by a CPA as selected by the board. Maybe it's outlined in the policies. I'm not sure about that. I haven't found it, and I'll give you credit if it's there. But regardless, the audit should be reported publicly. A gentleman that had the title of auditor on his nameplate at the Budget and Finance Committee meeting last Friday that I attended questioned if it was in the committee's purview to make a recommendation to the board about policies and procedures for establishing reserve accounts. My question would be, what other committee would have the knowledge and expertise to make such a recommendation? That in itself surprised me. In closing, as I said, I know you have hard jobs. There is an incredible amount of information to know about nonprofit organizational operations. It's why board retreats are important. It's why trainers and consultants are important. I'm curious about when the last time RCSC had someone from the outside.
Well, good morning. Spread out.
What?
Don't have 22 in the pool today.
Oh.
We did fill up our class.
like,
A lot of you
whoa.
are back with us,
Okay.
which is great. And for
Anyway.
those of you who aren't, well, try again next time.
We get lost in our own silos. You can't obviously know everything the day you step into a board role, and that's why you lean on others. There's a myriad of professional resources out there, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I know it's a lot of work for you and the staff, and I said before, I've walked in your shoes, and I know how hard it is to be in the hot seat. Dale, I totally understand. I know one of the committees asked for copies of reports, and I don't recall if it was long-range planning or facilities. And the response that was this was in the minutes. It said, that would be a lot of paper. Really? I know. But committees can't function without information. They need their tools, and they need lots of them. Committees can't and shouldn't function in the dark. And one final thing about the budget. At last Friday's meeting, there were a lot of comments about, before I go on to that, a copy of the budget at last Friday's meeting, it also came up. A person sitting next to me, another member, asked Mr. Cook as we were leaving if the budget was available online, and he said no. And she asked if a copy of the budget was available, and he said, not until it's approved. Really? And Sun City West, as you know, has a 6-month process, and the members are involved. Yet, we don't have a copy of the budget. So, as I said at last Friday's meeting, there were a lot of comments about, oh, right, we're a nonprofit, we can't make money. And snickers and laughs, and we all talk about we can't make money. But we had a saying in my previous professional life, nonprofit is our tax status. It's not our mission statement or our business plan. Yes, you can make money. You just make sure you're doing it legally and then supporting the mission and spending it for its intended purpose. I appreciate your time, and I do appreciate what you do.
Can I just
Thank you
ask
for
for
your
a clarification?
Yes.
You made a comment about not providing reports and that it was in the minutes. I've never denied any reports.
I didn't say you did. I said it was in the Long-Range Planning Committee minutes. I believe it was Long-Range Planning, that committee members were asking for reports. I have a copy of the minutes. I can get them to you. They asked for
Okay, so it was long-range planning was asking for something and they didn't get it,
Yeah.
is what you're saying.
And the response was, well, that would take a lot of paper. And it's like, yeah, it could take a lot of paper, but then increase the paper and toner budget and give the committee what they need, or make them available electronically to them before the meeting. I don't know, but I'm not trying to be catty, I'm just saying.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're referring to utilization and use schedules. That has been made available to the committee. I don't know what else you're referring to.
I can get it here.
Tell me what it is.
I think I have it. If not,
When I was the chair of the Long-Range Planning Committee, I gave them everything they asked for, plus stuff they didn't even ask for, just to give it to them because I thought it was important.
well, I thought I brought it, and I didn't, but I will send it to you.
That's okay, yeah,
No,
that's fine.
No, I found it very curious.
Yeah, I think so too. That's why I'm asking you
Yeah.
about it, because I find it very curious,
Yeah, I'll send it to
as
you.
well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President? Yes. I would like to address that in the 17 years I've been here, because I've been keeping track, the annual assessment has only been raised a total of $166. and we have not raised it in 6 years. So I think that our management, financial department has done a very good job of managing the money, and the previous boards have done a good job of overseeing that budget. So I don't see where there is a question, because we've done a very good job at managing the money.
That's not what I was saying.
Okay, Director Wilson?
I'd just like to say that the two people who were on the Finance Committee that it says auditors, they are auditors for clubs that ask for an audit. They do not audit the RCSC as a whole.
Okay, that's good to know, thank you. But it still raises the question of the audit.
Yes.
And we do an audit every year.
Yes.
There is an
But
audit.
it's not reported publicly. I got it. I wrote your notes down. What you made the suggestion that the audit should be reported publicly.
Absolutely.
Yes, I got it.
Good, thank you.
I was paying attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
House 149885. I just have two quick comments. One is on the bylaws. I also concur, as Ms. Akins just stated a few minutes ago, that probably was not a first reading or should not have been counted as first reading. And I would like to see, prior to the next meeting, board meeting, where you're going to be talking about bylaws, a clean, concise copy provided online and also out to people to be able to review ahead of time. That's just my comment. The second comment that I wanted to make was in regards, it's again about the finance budget. I think that any time in the future, anything affects PIF and assessment increases to a member that constitutes an increase for everyone in this community, just about, should be a call-out, separate line item in a agenda. It should not be buried into a budget to be found out online or through people talking in groups and clubs that, hey, they're going to try to increase the assessment without it being a line item call out so everybody knows it's on an agenda, can come and speak to that at the time. That's all. Thank you.
Johnny Pearson, 131078. Just a question. Who is the chair for the Golf Advisory Committee?
I am.
You're listed as the co-chair.
I was the co-chair, and I am now the chair.
Why is Steve Collins no longer the chair of the Golf Advisory Committee?
I really can't talk about that. Legally, I cannot speak to the reason for that.
Is he still on the board?
Yes, he is.
Okay,
He's on
thank you.
vacation right now.
My name's Milt Lebsack, 130662. I'll be very brief. I have one issue and one issue only that I would like to discuss intelligently. First of all, I appreciate all your efforts on the board, staff members, all the volunteers who offer any significant input to what's going on in the city. I have been a longtime user of indoor gyms. For several years, we moved here in 2015. For the last several years, an indoor gym has been proposed in the Mountain View project. I submitted a letter to the board. I have submitted previous letters to the board. I've also submitted a letter to the Sun City Independent expressing my strong feeling that an indoor gym is not appropriate for an age-restricted senior community. The letter that I submitted to the board and that I hope will be published in the Independent states clearly my major reasons for that are the excessive cost of a facility that would be specifically used primarily for basketball and volleyball. I have no objections to multi-purpose recreational facilities, but a basketball and volleyball gym is not appropriate. I've used them in Arizona and many other states for a vast majority of my life, and I have never seen one located in an age-restricted senior community, and I think the reasons are cost, lack of utilization, and lack of demand. If anybody'd like to comment to that, I strongly feel that the next board should reconsider any efforts to put an indoor gym anywhere in Sun City. I think it's inappropriate, and I would appreciate any comments that anybody has. Thank you.
I would like to comment on that. I have been trying to rack my brain trying to come up with a different name for that. Because when we say a gym, the people think exactly what you're thinking. It's for volleyball and basketball. But this place is going to be able to be used for a lot more things than just that. It's going to be able to be used for dances. It's going to be able to be used for line dance. It's going to be able to be used for meetings. And it's not going to be specifically only for. Did you not want to answer?
But did you read my letter?
Yes.
Okay.
I specifically said that the main reason for an indoor gym that's been advocated is for basketball and volleyball. That is a special use facility. A multi-purpose recreational facility does not require a two-story building, does not require baskets hung from the ceiling or the walls. It does not require an unobstructed area for volleyball and basketball courts. I think that's the reason that you would have extreme difficulty finding any such facility in any age-restricted senior community in the United States.
I guess I was trying to agree with you. That's what I was saying. That's why I said along with you, I was trying to come up with a different name for that so that we would not be going in that direction.
Okay, I would just
And I just want to thank you for
it.
coming forward, because you have been the champion of that point of view. You've come up in front of the board many, many times.
I have, and
Yes.
I'm sorry that other people have not echoed that comment, but
That's
I feel
okay.
very strongly about it.
That's okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
President Ware,
Yes.
if I could just add to that, as we continue down the path, so now that we have a construction manager on board, as we get closer to breaking ground, the plan is to meet with all of the clubs that could potentially use that facility. And certainly, we're going to get inputs from the entire community to try and understand exactly what that particular area will be utilized for. So we definitely will not just build something without getting input from the community.
Yes, go ahead.
I think the part that isn't being said here clearly enough, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's clear to everybody, is simply that if we build a new facility to which clubs that are already existing will migrate, then they free up space that is underutilized. So we're just looking at, isn't there going to be an underutilization one way or another?
Thank you. Okay, next. Oh, wait, sir, you've already gotten up and talked, so now we have to let everybody have a chance.
Good morning. Good morning. Jean Totten, 148753. I just wanted to take a minute to thank directors Steve Collins, Mike Agee, Kat Fimmel, Karen McAdam, and John Nowakowski on the recommendation from the for voting no on the recommendation from the Finance and Budget Committee to approve management's 2023 budget. I can't read their minds as to why they voted in the manner that they did, but I feel it was a vote for the membership, since the raising of the yearly assessment by $29 was not mentioned in the agenda and the membership was not informed about it. So thank you to the directors who voted no. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else before we have repeats? Okay.
I wanted a clarification that if you want weather here on 111th and Union Hill or Peoria, there is a weather station for Sun City. Everybody I've talked to about this is getting weather from far, far away, usually downtown or out way north of here. So on the day they canceled the meeting, my weather at that weather station showed 0 chance of rain all week. But when you get the regular weather, yes, there were chances of rain, but they were all east to downtown. How many concerts are there now? Teresa came up here and said 9 starting in the spring and the fall. My old records show that there were 9 in the spring and 9 in the fall, plus the one for the tribute to the veterans. Is that wrong, or did that change?
Well, in my history, which isn't as long as yours, it's always just been 9. That includes the whole, that's for the year.
How long have you been here?
11 years.
I think when you were first here, there was more.
Well,
first part. Mr. Cook, how many are there?
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know. Teresa, if you're here, how many are there? Shout it from the rooftop. We can hear you.
Oh, she's already down the steps.
Don't run.
Oh, how many yell?
Where it stands right now, there's approximately 15 to 18 Sunbow shows.
Okay.
Depending on the way that the Sundays fall. It starts March, April. That's 8 or 9. Then it comes again first week of September. That's 10. October is either 4 or 5 weeks in October. That could be 15, and then the last one in November.
So it depends on where the Sundays fall. Sometimes you have 4, sometimes you have 5.
Right.
Got it.
So there are no more November concerts.
We had the one.
No, she always has the concert at the end of the,
Veterans Day.
for veterans. That's the last one. Now it starts up again in March.
So it's, okay, that's
Thank you.
what changed. I've got sheets, if anybody wants to see, showing that they go all the way to the end of November. Thank you.
I'll make this quick. I would like someone to explain to me why we can't collect signatures on RCS property, because it's my understanding that it is private property, but I understand that it's basically our private property because we pay for it. People from Glendale can't come on our property or Surprise. So I guess nobody's interrupting. We're not talking about interrupting people who are bowling. All I'm asking is maybe the bylaws should say, rather than on RCS property, it should say in RCS property, where maybe people can set a card table up outside the entrance of a facility and collect signatures on a clipboard. There, you wouldn't be bothering anybody, and everybody would be happy. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. I got to get back to my paperwork here. All right, the next meeting of the Board of Directors will be on November 17th at 9 a.m. at the Sundial Auditorium. The next member board exchange will be December 5th. We're moving everything up because of the holidays, so it's a little tightened schedule. So not hearing anything else, we'll call. Yes.
A quick announcement. Sun City Community Access Network will be doing a food drive this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Anyone who wants information, please call them or come see me after the meeting. Thank you.
Okay. We have one more person. Yes?
I'd just like to see something out via email on the voting, how to vote. And we've talked about it, but I haven't seen anything in black and white.
Okay, I think, Marcia, am I wrong, but are there sheets back on the back table that give the directions on how to vote, or is that just at the board meetings? Just at the board meetings. Just at the board meetings.
I've talked to a number of people who are totally confused about whether they're eligible to vote.
Well, if they're a member in good standing, if they are a member, not a privilege card holder, but a member in good standing, they are eligible to vote.
I know that. They do not. I've run into a number of people that think because they're snowbirds, they're not allowed to vote. So where'd you come up with that? But we need to put out some clear.
Something that makes it a little more clear for people. Okay.
Simple and
set it up. Thanks.
Okay. All right, with that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
You did it. And right on.
This is a copyrighted production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.